The conference that changed everything, Dr. Sarah Chun adjusted her laptop screen for the 100th time, trying to ignore the snickering from the back row of the International Space Technology Summit in Geneva. The source of their amusement sat 3 seats to her left, Jake Morrison, a 28-year-old engineer from NASA's Experimental Division, wearing a faded T-shirt that read, "Earth's Mightiest Species," with a cartoon human flexing tiny biceps. A Zephyrian delegation occupied the front rows, their crystalline forms catching the conference room's fluorescent lights. Ambassador Veltar had arrived on Earth 6 months ago, offering humanity a place in the Galactic Trade Consortium, but only as junior partners, mining asteroid belts for the more advanced civilizations. As I was explaining, Veltar's voice resonated through his translation device. Humans show promise in manual labor sectors. Your species demonstrates adequate endurance for extended mining operations in hostile environments. Jake raised his hand, earning more snickers from the crowd. His worn jeans and sneakers stood out among the sea of expensive suits. Question: about those hostile environments, what kind of temperatures and radiation levels are we talking about? Veltar's crystalline features shifted in what might have been condescension. Conditions that would challenge even our hardy Krex laborers. Surface temperatures reaching 400 degrees Celsius. Radiation levels that would sterilize most organic matter within hours. Interesting, Jake nodded, pulling out what looked like an ordinary smartphone. Because according to my calculations, those conditions are actually pretty mild compared to some places humans already work. The room fell silent. Even the Zephyrian scientists leaned forward. Jake tapped his phone screen. Ever heard of the Centralia mine fires in Pennsylvania? Coal burning underground for over 60 years. Surface temperatures hit 500 Celsius. Or, how about the Fukushima cleanup crews? They worked in radiation levels that would cook most life forms, and they did it wearing basic protective gear. Dr. Chun watched the Zephyrian delegation exchange. What she'd learned were worried glances. Rapid color shifts across their translucent bodies. That's impossible, Veltar protested. No organic species could survive such conditions without advanced technological augmentation. Jake stood up, his T-shirt's message suddenly seeming less ridiculous. Want to see something really impressive? My buddy Tommy worked on deep-sea oil rigs. 2 miles underwater, pressure that would crush your crystalline bodies like empty cans. In water so cold, it would freeze your core temperature in seconds. He pulled up videos on his phone. Humans, working in environments that made the Zephyrians' hostile mining conditions look like a vacation resort. Welders repairing underwater pipelines, volcano researchers collecting lava samples, Antarctic researchers surviving in conditions that registered as absolute zero on most alien measurement scales. The thing about humans, Jake continued, his voice carrying across the now silent conference room, is that we don't just survive impossible conditions. We make them our workplace. We've been doing it for thousands of years. Veltar's translation device crackled with what sounded suspiciously like nervous static. The other alien delegates in the room, species that had initially dismissed humanity as primitive, began accessing their own data devices with sudden urgency. Sarah Chun smiled. Maybe Jake's T-shirt wasn't so silly after all. The challenge. No one expected the conference room buzzed with alien languages as delegates frantically cross-referenced their databases. Jake Morrison sat calmly, still wearing his Earth's Mightiest Species T-shirt, while the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy tried to process what they'd just learned. Commander Thrix of the Hegemony Defense Force rose from his seat. His reptilian features set in what humans had learned was skepticism. These claims require verification. Surely your species uses advanced environmental suits or cybernetic enhancements for such tasks. Jake laughed, pulling out his wallet and extracting a wrinkled photograph. This is my grandfather, Pete Morrison. Worked in the Witwatersrand gold mines in South Africa. 3 kilometers underground, temperatures over 50 degrees Celsius, humidity that would drown most air breathers. His protective equipment? A hard hat, work boots, and whatever water he could carry down. He passed the photo around. The image showed a weathered man covered in dust and sweat, grinning despite the hellish conditions. Dr. Chun decided to add her own perspective. My research focuses on human adaptation in extreme environments. We've documented cases of humans surviving in conditions that our own medical science said should kill them within minutes. She activated her presentation remote. Tibetan Highlanders. Living at altitudes where oxygen levels would cause other species to suffocate. Inuit populations thriving in Arctic conditions that register as lethal on most biological survival charts. Australian Aboriginal peoples navigating deserts with temperatures exceeding what most starships' cooling systems can handle. The crystalline observer, a being made entirely of living mineral, spoke through harmonic resonance. Your species appears to possess unusual biological resilience, but surely you require extensive preparation and planning for such endeavors. Jake chuckled, remembering his brother's stories from the military. Tell that to the guys who got dropped into Afghanistan's Hindu Kush mountains with 40-pound packs, expected to hike through terrain that would challenge a mountain goat, in temperatures swinging from 50 degrees Celsius during the day to minus 20 at night. He stood up, addressing the room directly. Or the search and rescue teams who rappel down cliff faces during hurricanes to pull people out of collapsed buildings. Or the firefighters who run into burning structures while everyone else runs out. Ambassador Veltar's color patterns had shifted to what Dr. Chun recognized as deep concern. These examples suggest your species has an unusual relationship with danger. That's where you're wrong, Jake replied. We don't have an unusual relationship with danger. We have an unusual relationship with impossible situations. We don't just accept them or avoid them. We adapt to them, master them, and then we make them routine. He pulled up news footage. On his phone, human civilians forming bucket brigades during floods, neighbors rescuing neighbors from collapsed buildings after earthquakes, ordinary people performing extraordinary acts in crisis situations. Every human child grows up hearing stories about people who faced impossible odds and found a way through. We don't just survive extreme conditions. We thrive in them because that's what humans do. We adapt. The room had gone completely silent. Alien delegates who had arrived expecting to discuss humanity's role as manual laborers were now frantically recalculating their assumptions about human capabilities. Commander Thrix cleared his throat. Perhaps we should discuss more challenging assignments for human workers. Jake grinned, his T-shirt's message finally getting the respect it deserved. Now you're talking. What kind of impossible jobs did you have in mind? The greatest military minds in the galaxy were about to learn why humans had inherited the Earth. When gods realized they're not alone, the conference room had transformed from a polite diplomatic gathering into what resembled a military strategy session. Admiral Korth of the Titan Defense Fleet, a being whose species had conquered 12-star systems through superior technology and tactical planning, found himself leaning forward with genuine interest. The Void Nebula mining operation, Admiral Korth announced, his mechanical voice carrying across the room. 17 civilizations have attempted it. All failed. Gravitational anomalies that tear apart starships, radiation storms that corrupt, artificial intelligence systems, and spatial distortions that make navigation impossible. Jake Morrison looked up from his phone, where he'd been showing pictures of humans working on North Sea oil platforms during Category 5 storms. Sounds like Tuesday in the Gulf of Mexico during hurricane season. What's the actual challenge? The ethereal collective's representative, a being of pure energy contained within a containment suit, flickered with what might have been disbelief. The challenge, human, is survival. The nebula's conditions shift randomly. What is solid matter? One moment becomes plasma the next. Workers must adapt to environmental changes that occur faster than most species' nervous systems can process. Dr. Chun exchanged glances with Jake. She'd studied human reaction times extensively, particularly in emergency situations. Random environmental changes, Jake mused. Like Chicago weather, but with more radiation. Got it. He stood up and addressed the room. Let me tell you about smoke jumpers, firefighters who parachute into forest fires. They drop into situations where the environment is literally trying to kill them. Wind patterns change by the minute. Temperatures fluctuate from survivable to lethal in seconds. And visibility drops to zero without warning. Jake pulled up videos of humans working in active volcanic zones, adjusting their strategies in real time as lava flows change direction. Or storm chasers, people who drive directly into tornadoes to collect scientific data. They navigate conditions where the rules of physics seem to change every few minutes. Commander Thrix's reptilian features showed what humans had learned was deep concentration. Your species appears to specialize in rapid adaptation to changing circumstances. It's not just adaptation, Dr. Chun interjected. It's improvisation. Human beings have an unusual ability to create solutions using whatever resources are immediately available. She activated another presentation slide showing human engineers jury-rigging solutions in crisis situations. Apollo 13, 3 humans, trapped in a damaged spacecraft using duct tape, plastic bags, and cardboard to create a life support system that kept them alive for 4 days. The materials weren't designed to work together, but humans made them work. The mechanized sovereignties. Delegate, a cyborg entity with processing power equivalent to a small city, spoke through its communication array. Such solutions would be impossible to calculate in advance. The variables are too numerous. Jake grinned. That's exactly the point. We don't calculate solutions in advance. We figure them out as we go. Every human learns this as a kid. Something breaks, you fix it with whatever you have on hand. He shared a story about his uncle, a mechanic who'd kept a World War II-era truck running for 30 years, using parts from washing machines, lawn mowers, and once, memorably, a toaster. The thing about impossible situations, Jake continued, is that they're only impossible until someone figures out how to make them work. Humans have been doing that for our entire history. Ambassador Veltar's crystalline form had shifted to colors that Dr. Chun recognized as awe mixed with concern. Perhaps we should discuss the compensation for such work. Now we're getting somewhere, Jake replied, his t-shirt's cartoon human seeming to flex with renewed confidence. But first, let's talk about that Void Nebula operation. When do we start? The galaxy's most powerful civilizations were beginning to understand that they might have underestimated their newest trading partners. The test that shocked the galaxy 3 weeks later, a mining platform, impossible dream. A name Jake had insisted on floated at the edge of the Void Nebula. The station represented the combined technology of 7 advanced civilizations, built specifically to test human capabilities in the galaxy's most hostile work environment. Captain Maria Santos adjusted her environmental suit, grinning at her. Team of 12 humans from various backgrounds, oil rig workers, deep-sea divers, mountain rescue specialists, and combat engineers. Each wore standard protective gear that alien civilizations had dismissed as primitive. Remember, she told her team through the CUM system, we're not just here to do a job. We're here to show the galaxy what humans can accomplish. The observation deck held representatives from every major galactic power. Ambassador Veltar's crystalline form flickered with nervous energy, while Admiral Korth's mechanical systems ran continuous probability calculations that kept producing error messages. Phase 1 begins now, announced the station's AI, speaking in 17 different languages simultaneously. Environmental hazards are increasing to Category 9, lethal to all known organic life forms. Inside the nebula, space itself seemed to writhe. Gravitational fields shifted every few seconds, radiation spikes occurred randomly, and solid matter periodically transformed into energy and back again. Tommy O'Brien, a former oil rig supervisor from Aberdeen, watched his instruments register conditions that should have been impossible to survive. Well, lads, this reminds me of that platform job in the North Atlantic during the winter of '09. His team moved through the work zone with casual efficiency, adapting their movements to gravitational changes that would have disoriented most species. When radiation levels spiked, they took shelter behind improvised barriers made from asteroid debris. When their primary tools failed, they jury-rigged replacements using spare parts and creative thinking. Impossible, whispered the ethereal. Collective's representative. They're working in conditions that would kill our most advanced cybernetic units. Dr. Chun, monitoring from the observation deck, pointed to her readings. Notice their heart rates and stress indicators. They're elevated, but within normal human parameters for challenging work. For them, this is just another difficult job. Jake Morrison, now wearing a new t-shirt reading, Human Standard, Galaxy's New Benchmark, watched his species prove that Earth's reputation for toughness wasn't just planetary folklore. The real test came when the nebula entered what scientists called a chaos phase, a period when all environmental conditions change simultaneously every 30 seconds. Most alien technology simply shut down, unable to process the rapid variations. The human team adapted like they'd been doing it their whole lives. When gravity reversed, they secured their equipment and kept working upside down. When temperatures plummeted to near absolute zero, they huddled together for warmth and continued their tasks with numbed fingers. When spatial distortions made navigation impossible, they used improvised rope systems and shouted directions. "Look at them," Admiral Korth said, his mechanical voice carrying something that might have been respect. "They're not just surviving. They're accomplishing the mission objectives ahead of schedule." Commander Thrix pulled up efficiency reports that made his species' best workers look sluggish by comparison. In conditions that shut down our most advanced AI systems, humans are performing at 127% of projected capacity. The final phase involved what the galaxy considered the ultimate test equipment failure during maximum environmental stress. When the humans' life support systems began failing, alien observers expected evacuation procedures. Instead, they watched Maria Santos jury-rig a backup oxygen system using mining equipment, while Tommy O'Brien created a makeshift radiation shield from discarded metal plating, and the rest of the team continued working as if catastrophic system failures were just part of the job description. When the 12-hour shift ended, the human team had completed tasks that alien projections suggested would take 6 months with. A crew of 50 advanced cybernetic units. Jake addressed the stunned observation deck. "So, about that junior partner status in the trade consortium. The galaxy had just learned that humans didn't just survive impossible conditions. They excelled in them." The new galactic order 6 months after the Void Nebula demonstration, the Galactic Trade Consortium's headquarters buzzed with activity that would have been unthinkable a year earlier. Humans weren't just members, they were running operations that other species had deemed impossible. Jake Morrison walked through the corridors wearing his latest t-shirt. Human Solutions. When physics says no, we say yes. He'd been promoted to Director of Extreme Environment Operations, overseeing projects across 17 star systems. Dr. Sarah Chan found him in the strategy room, surrounded by holographic displays showing human teams working in conditions that still made veteran alien commanders nervous. deep core planetary mining operations, stellar forge maintenance, and black hole observation posts, all staffed by humans who treated galaxy-threatening environments as routine workplace hazards. "The numbers are incredible," she told him, reviewing the productivity reports. "Human teams are outperforming projections by 300% across all extreme environment contracts." Ambassador Veltar materialized in the room, his crystalline form now showing patterns of deep respect rather than condescension. "The Consortium Council has reached a decision regarding humanity's status." Jake looked up from a report about humans successfully establishing mining operations in the corona of a star, something that had been theoretically impossible according to galactic scientific consensus. "Let me guess," Jake grinned. "You want to upgrade us to full partners?" "More than that," Veltar replied. "The Council is proposing the creation of a new classification, Apex Species, Extreme Environment Specialists. Humans would have primary authority over all operations deemed too dangerous for conventional approaches." The implications were staggering. Entire sectors of galactic industry that had been considered too risky or impossible would now fall under human management. Mining operations in neutron star proximities, research stations inside unstable wormholes, construction projects in the event horizons of black holes. Commander Thrix's holographic form appeared, broadcasting from his flagship, the Hegemony. "Defense Force has a proposal as well. We wish to establish joint training programs. Our soldiers require instruction in human-style adaptive tactics." Dr. Chun laughed, remembering the alien military officials who had initially dismissed human combat capabilities. "I take it the standard warfare simulations didn't go as expected?" "Human forces succeeded in scenarios our computers classified as unwinnable," Thrix admitted. "They demonstrated tactical flexibility that exceeded our strategic algorithms. When conventional approaches failed, humans simply invented new approaches." Jake pulled up footage from the military exercises, human soldiers turning impossible defensive positions into victory conditions through creative use of terrain, improvised weapons, and tactics that no military academy had ever taught because they'd never occurred to anyone. The galaxy's requesting human advisors for approximately 847 projects currently classified as impossible, Veltar continued. "Everything from terraforming planets with unstable orbits to establishing trade routes through space-time anomalies. The transformation was complete. In less than a year, humans had gone from potential manual laborers to the galaxy's go-to specialists for anything deemed too dangerous, too unpredictable, or too impossible for conventional approaches." Jake stood up, his T-shirt's message finally receiving the recognition it deserved. "You know what the funny thing is? We're not actually superhuman. We're just ... human. This is what we've always done." He gestured toward Earth's direction. "Every human child grows up hearing stories about people who faced impossible odds and found a way through. We didn't develop these abilities for galactic industry. We developed them to survive on a planet that spent millions of years trying to kill us." Dr. Chun nodded, adding, "Humans aren't the strongest species, or the smartest, or the most technologically advanced, but we might be the most adaptable. When everything goes wrong, we figure out how to make it work." As alien representatives continued discussing humanity's new role in galactic civilization, Jake looked out at the stars and smiled. His T-shirt had started as a joke, but it had become a galactic truth. Earth's mightiest species had finally found their place in the universe, wherever everyone else was afraid to go.